of between the ages of 5 and 14 can study.
So what is the theme of Fairtrade Fortnight this year, and what is that weird cardboard cutout of Mike Gidney?
It's not so weird. Well, we have Fairtrade Fortnight every year. It's our big promotional time where we get everybody up and down the country thinking and talking about Fairtrade. The theme this year is Go Further with Fairtrade. And we really want people to do two things. The first thing is we want people to celebrate all that Fairtrade can provide. So like the example from the Iriani tea growers I was just talking about, if we just look for Fairtrade when we shop, we can enable them to make a transformative difference in their communities. So we need to get the message out, keep buying Fairtrade. The great thing there is Fairtrade's growing. We'll be announcing our figures on Monday. UK Fairtrade is growing really well, double-digit growth despite the recession. And that's thanks to the many thousands of people up and down the country who actively talk about it in their schools and towns and colleges. We're expecting about 10,000 events up and down the country over the next couple of weeks. Everything from, I was just talking about it to somebody a minute ago, everything from the world's longest banana split by a bunch of communities in Wales to the co-op trying to break the land speed record for the world's first coffee-powered car. Lots of wonderful eccentric activity around the country. And that's the public pull which creates the business potential. But you're right, we've done much better in food so far. The concept is much better known in bananas, and chocolate and coffee than it is in cotton. And when you see what you've done and what People Tree has done and the fantastic clothes that you produce on the back of that with the help of the farmers, it's a huge shame that we're not yet there in the mainstream. So we need to keep the pressure on. I think consumers possibly aren't as interested. So people have got the idea that the coffee you buy can make a difference, but they don't want to necessarily trade down on their wish to have really fast fashion, really cheap. People like you guys in People Tree proves it can be done. You can have wonderful clothes, well made in a way which respects the provenance, respects the farmers, respects the environment, and does us all some good. And that's the concept we need to get out there much more.
So I know when we last met, you were talking about how, since you started your label, how fast fashion's become. I mean, how as a high-end designer does that impact you?
Well, just the invention of more seasons, resort and pre-fall, so it just keeps us going
On your toes.
every 3 months, and then you're off to the next one, which is perfectly fine because it creates jobs and it creates situations. So yeah, but certainly yes, it has become much quicker.
And can I ask, why did you decide that you were happy to collaborate with People Tree?
Yeah. So my sort of feeling to say yes to it was that I might be able to learn something, and I don't think that that's a bad thing.
Well, I mean, the whole trip that we had this year was, just a massive eye-opener, and I think, as a model, you sort of turn up, model some clothes and go home. Well, as we saw in the video, we saw where the Fairtrade premiums are going, and we saw the kids going into school and saw how happy they were and all the benefits that they were getting, and just, the clean water that they were, which I can't remember how many villages it was.
I think it's about 300.
Yeah, 300.
For me, once you start thinking about planetary health and the environmental health and biodiversity, then you have to stop thinking about just food and start moving on to organic cotton being, 16% of all insecticide usage, conventional cotton. And it's the most powerful thing we could do to change, rather than how we're eating our food. It would be the most powerful thing we could do. I think what you do is way beyond anything that I do, or even probably most organic businesses in this country do. I mean, the chain you're following is absolutely phenomenal compared to me. But I struggle trying to get my organic farmers. I mean, I was thinking about it yesterday. I was talking to one of my fish suppliers, and I have trouble getting him to answer the phone to sell to me and to invoice me so that I can pay him. You would have thought the two most basic things. And he's only in Britain, and we deal with that constantly with all our little farmers and suppliers that we're working with. But we work with them because the produce they create is wonderful. The biodiversity, the impact they're having on the environment is fabulous. I'm working with fishers that are having a positive effect on sustainability in the sea. I'm working with farmers that are having a positive effect on the environment. What we've seen here is a very positive imagery of what the fashion industry does, but the negative imagery is absolutely terrifying. I mean, it is flooring, and why would we not support someone like Peopletree that's working so hard and has to work. I can't describe what you have to do to try and support the producers that create the work for Peopletree, but it is absolutely mind-blowing, and it's kind of incomprehensible that we would not support that system, and to wear guilt-free clothing like this. It's just wonderful, it's heavenly. Why would we do anything else?
I'd like to ask about how your documentary was received. What did people say to you?
The first one we ever did was blood, sweat and t-shirts. So it was the idea, they took 6 British kids, I was 20, an old lady then. They took 6 of us to show us where our garments were made. So it was at the time when Primark was really kicking off, and it was this idea of throwaway, fast, panicked consumerism. So we all went there and we were all blown away that child labour existed, it was rife. We learned a lot. And the series itself was really, really well received. We'd have people, I think we were nominated for BAFTA, Best Factual, the viewing, the ratings were brilliant, people are interested in this kind of thing. You've got people coming up to you that don't watch Panorama and don't listen to Dispatches and aren't middle class going, I had no idea that was going on, it's wicked, now I know, I'm starting to have a nose at labels. So it was really well received.
You were talking about organic food and things like this. And I think that's great. I mean, I don't cook myself, so I don't buy food, so I don't really, I have to say, and maybe I've just never understood sometimes, how does poor people fund buying organic food? Because as I'm aware of, it is kind of much more expensive buying organic food, and I'm sure you're against what I'm saying. because you just think that then you say that you can eat less or something like this.
No, you're not. I mean, the myth is that supermarkets sell poor people cheap food, and it's just rubbish. They sell poor people shit food at a very high price, and it's just a myth.
Which is to tell people that they can make a positive difference without needing to get into all of the detail. You want people to understand what you're trying to do, but you don't have to put them off with sort of the horrors of poverty. But you also need to give the public something really positive they can do. You can make a difference today by buying your clothes at Peopletree, or if you're looking for food, if you are buying food, look for the Fairtrade mask. And one of the things that we see in the Fairtrade movement, this huge public pull around the country, which was started by the die-hard campaigners who would stand out, giving out leaflets on some wet and windy high streets all year round. That's the bridgehead. That punches a hole in more people's consciousness, and so you don't now need to be called Moonbeam. It's sort of out there as a concept. And so I think more power to that collective sort of democratisation of these issues. That's one really important thing.
And the reason why we have organic movement in this country is because of the consumers and the business people who decided to drive it forward. Nothing to do with the government. It was us, the people, who did it, and that's the same with ethical fashion. And I think people who are buying into fair trade and organic and ethical fashion don't necessarily understand it, and it's brilliant that you are doing this partly to learn. Fabulous.
The Fairtrade Fortnight message is go further than fair trade, but isn't this a really good reason why we need people to go further? So I think there are 2 things I'd like people to do. One is, if you've not ever bought a piece of fair trade clothing, buy one, and if you have, buy another one. Or if you haven't tried a certain type of fair trade food, give it a go. And you can send people the Peopletree link on social networks, so you can even do it over email. So just to get the message out, it is possible to do it without having a PhD in shopping. And the other thing is, if you've got a little more time, the reason for this little TV that is around somewhere is we're trying to get the government to pay a little attention too. So this is a really hard time for everybody, and the government is sort of retrenching, and we want them to go out there and go further for smallholders. So many cotton farmers are smallholders, and of course so many food farmers are smallholders.
Ask questions even if you don't understand what the answer is going to be given. So so you don't know what you're expecting from the answer. I think is vitally important. How you spend your money can completely change the world, and put pressure on the government as well, because I think we have to remember that recycling, and we were talking about what people know, people really get recycling now. They understand the point of it and why it matters and how to do it, and that has been a government initiative. and that's been financially driven. So the government has penalised waste companies by not dealing with it, penalised councils, so therefore they've responded to it. The government could do the same with all these issues. If they procured organically, we would change the face of Britain and we'd probably have all our bees back if, you know, all government procurement was organic. They have the power to change everything. We have the power to control our government. So we have the power.